Hey everyone, this is Nitro. I'm just doing a revision of the Narm video because I've made multiple mistakes in the original recording, so I wanted to get those changed. So I just want to give special thanks to the 6 commenters on the original video who highlighted the major errors I made in that first video. They will be listed in the video description below. So once again, thank you for those comments because it really helped for me to adjust and update the video accordingly. Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I am going to talk about the way to build the foot archer who is amazing for kiting, Narm. So, she is originally the commander of Baldia's Royal Guard, and she accompanies Ledin on his journey, and eventually ends up together with Ledin's frenemy, Lance. And from that, she does become the first queen of Calsifer. Well, as for regarding Lance, so pretty interesting character overall, but in terms of her utility in Langrisser Mobile, I honestly can't recommend building up Narm in the early stages of the game. And it's not because she's useless in the early stages. No, in fact she is quite useful. As an archer she can counter flyers and so on. But the reason I can't recommend building her up is simply because of the training grounds. In the early stages of the game, you really lack resources. And because of the lack of resources, you generally only choose to upgrade 4 of the 6 training grounds in the early stages of the game. So, the ones you generally focus on in the early stages would be infantry training ground to be able to handle the Thunder Dragon. You'll probably upgrade Lancer training ground for your tank. You'll upgrade Flyer and Aquatic training ground for your melee DPS, who will be either Leon or Shuri. In both cases, you'd be upgrading either Vampire Bats or else Angels. As for the final training ground you generally upgrade, it'll be Holy and Demon training ground, because that way you can upgrade it to buff up your healers with, let's say, Shrine Maidens, as well as buff up your mages by upgrading sorceresses, right? Mages being Bozel and likely Lena. So that would be 4 training grounds, which already require a lot of resources, and you'll likely ignore the Cavalry training ground and the Archer and Assassin training ground in the early stages. Because of neglecting the Archer and Assassin training ground, that means Narm will have terrible soldiers as a result. So that's why I can't recommend her for the early stages of the game. However, once you do get your Archer and Assassin training ground upgraded properly, like for example mine is at all 34%, and the only upgrades that I'm missing is 1 upgrade to hit points and 1 upgrade to defense and magic defense. Right, 14 out of 15, and 14 out of 15 here. Right? Everything else would just require SSR items at this point. So once your Archer and Assassin training ground is fully upgraded, she's actually worth upgrading because of Ancient's Call. Now, keep in mind, Ancient's Call is released roughly 10 months after the initial game release. So for international server, that will be around late end of November. I think it's November 21st is the day for international server to get it. In any case though, once Ancient's Call is released, one of the Ancient's Call fights, which is Hugin and Munin, Narm is the top tier damage dealer in that battle. And that would be the reason to build her. Now, for that battle, you want Legion of Glory characters. And while Narm is one of the top tier ones, the other one is actually the soon to be released Elestrial. However, I should mention, while Elestrial is also great for this fight, unfortunately, Elestrial is an SSR. So you're going to require shard farming of her to bring her up to a high star level to be used. By comparison, if you're going to be using Narm, like I do, you probably have her at 6 stars 10 months into the game. And if she's at 6 stars, it's easy to just, finish building her up. You don't need to farm shards, and she can be used right away. So, at this point, let's begin by talking about the characters to unlock Narm's bonds. And Narm is a reasonably easy character to get her bonds unlocked. For her 4th bond, it requires Lance. And you're going to use Lance to clear the 4th battle in her Gate of Fate. Now, I clearly did clear the battle, but I forgot to use Lance, which means I am going to have to go back to that fight to unlock her 4th bond. As for her 5th bond, this bond, the Strength bond, is apparently unlocked by Ledin. I actually can't recall. It's been way too long since I unlocked this one. In regards to her Heart bond, unfortunately I don't have it unlocked, so I can't go over the 3 skills that it provides. Alright, so with that covered, let's move on to talk about Narm's talent. Her talent is Diversionary Tactics. There is basically 2 effects. First is, when attacking, her attack increases by a certain percentage. And the second effect is that the target's mobility decreases by 3, and it lasts 1 turn. And this has a 1 turn cooldown. Okay. In terms of the attack value, at 2 stars it's a 5% increase, 3 stars is 7%, 4 stars is 10%, 5 stars is 12%, and then 6 stars is the 15% as you see here. So having her at a high star level is important because that attack increase will affect her soldiers as well as herself. The target mobility decrease effect of -3 mobility, the cooldown changes depending on her star level as well. It is a 3-turn cooldown at 2 stars and 3 stars, a 2-turn cooldown at 4 stars and 5 stars, and then at 6 stars it becomes a 1-turn cooldown. So once again, in order to use her, she really should be at the 6-star level for maximum attack and the Diversionary Tactics effect to kick in. Alright, so it's overall quite a useful talent because if you use her to attack the enemy and it hits the enemy Lancer, it can disable their guard skill, right? But in PvP, it's rather useless because in PvP, most tanks will have Overlord's badges on them, which gives the immunity to mobility reduction effects. Thus, not a great skill for PvP, but very, very useful for PvE content. So, let's now move into her classes. She has 2 classes that she can get class mastery on. The first one is a ranger as a foot archer with 3 mobility and 2 range. Her second class mastery is actually a Pegasus master, where she is a flyer class with 1 range but 5 mobility. So, it's important to note that with her Pegasus classes, the stat increases are actually quite terrible in truth. The Pegasus Lord gives defense and magic defense only, and the Pegasus Master gives hit points, defense, and magic defense. In other words, unlocking these 2 classes gives her no attack increase whatsoever. What you're effectively getting from these 2 classes then is some defense increase of 15, some magic defense increase of 24, and 90 hit points. Overall, I think these 2 classes can be skipped so that you don't have to waste 2 runestones onto them. You could choose to optionally get the general class for an additional 7 attack and 80 hit points, but overall that is a very minor stat increase. For example, if you get the ranger class, you're looking at 90 hit points and 25 attack. So in very many ways, I believe you can skip access to all of three of these classes and save your rune stones for other characters. Thus, in terms of class mastery, your Narm only needs to go from Archer to Sniper to Ranger for the Hugin and Munin fights. So, with that said, let's now talk about Narm's skill combos. So, for general purpose PvE utility, you would probably use the combo that you see on my Narm right now, which is Roundabout, Aim, and Snipe. The way this combo works is you can attack the enemy with Snipe, retreat with the Roundabout effect, then use Aim to hopefully reduce the cooldown on Snipe to attack again. So you just endlessly do that, keep attacking, and the thing with Aim is it can also refresh Narm's Diversionary Tactics talent. So it's a great combo to make use of Narm for general purpose, especially for Guild Wars as an example. However, when we're talking about using Narm for Hugin and Munin, it changes dramatically. In the Hugin and Munin fights, the best skill combo for her there is actually replacing the aim skill with a second attack skill, Deadeye. And the reason you want to replace aim is because aim is considered its own separate turn whenever you use it. In the fight, you generally get buffed up by your allies with, for example, Tiaris applying attack blessing on her, Varna or Chris applying mass attack so that she can't lose any attack, and finally probably Liana as well to apply her mass protect effect. So, given you're getting buffed by a lot of other allies, you can't afford to lose those buffs, and thus you can't bring aim. So, with the skill combo covered for both Ancient's Call and general utility, let's move on to talk about Narm's soldiers. In terms of soldiers, as an SR character, she only gets a 25% stat boost to start, rather than a 30% boost that SSRs get. So, her starting boost is 0% to hit points, 15% to attack, 10% to defense, and 0% to magic defense. Her third bond increases attack and defense values. So her final soldier boost ends up being 10% hit points, 40% attack, 35% defense, and 10% magic defense. Now mine is not complete yet because I haven't upgraded her third bond fully, but it's getting there. In terms of the soldiers she gets from the training ground, well, she has access to Sky Archers, Bolt Rangers, and Angels from the training ground. From her four soldiers in the classes, Ranger gives her High Elf as well as Demon Hunter, and Pegasus Master gives her Holy Pegasus and Heavy Cavalry. So, in terms of her best soldier, it's really the Sky Archer, because the Sky Archer offers the maximum mobility by allowing her to ignore terrain entirely, and it has when she's attacking, there is an attack increase with these soldiers. So that's her overall best soldier. If you don't have the Sky Archers leveled up, Bolt Rangers is generally considered a very good secondary option, since when you're attacked, when your hit point is above 50%, you have a 100% chance to decrease damage taken by 50% before entering battle. So this can help increase your survivability. But keep in mind, in the Ancient's Call fights, this probably won't save you at all, given that in Ancient's Call, the enemy keeps getting stat increases every turn until they do so much damage they can basically one-shot you. As for Demon Hunters, I mean, the Demon Hunters have a chance to reduce enemies' mobility and decrease their defense by 20%. However, in Ancient's Call, the Hugin and Munin fight, the enemy is immune to all debuffs, so this would do nothing to them. Thus, overall, the best soldier is really the Sky Archers if you have them leveled up at level 10. So, at this point, let's move on to talk about Narm's gear for this Ancient Call battle. And what you see here is pretty much what can be considered her best gear. First, let's start by talking about her weapon. And in terms of weapon, Narm is quite easy. Her ideal weapon, in truth, is basically pretty much any bow, because the bows offer a 107 attack increase. You can also use daggers, but keep in mind that daggers at level 50, I think they only get 96 attack as opposed to 107. So they do have less attack, and that's important to keep in mind. The only bow you definitely don't want on Narm is the Uller's Bow. Because the Uller's Bow, first of all, it decreases your physical damage by 10%. And secondly, while it does increase unit range by 1, the fact of the matter is Hugin and Munin have 3 range. So the 1 additional range won't allow Narm to attack outside of Hugin and Munin's retaliation range, making it not very, very good. I should mention there's also one other weapon that can be considered really good for Narm in this fight, and that's a weapon I don't have, so I'll quickly bring it up in the gallery. And this is the dagger, the Spirit Griever, because the Spirit Griever's effect is regrets. When attacking, it increases it increases crit by a certain percentage, and also reduces damage taken. The increase is 15% crit chance and a 30% damage reduction. So this damage reduction can definitely help when you're attacking, which makes it a great weapon for your Narm if you have one. So with the weapon covered, let's move on to talk about her other pieces of gear. Armor. And the best armor for Narm for this fight is very easy. It's Last Rites. The reason is because Last Rites' effect of lowering all damage taken by 40% when hit points is 100% will be key to your success. Right? You need it to survive. It's just that simple. Without this armor, your Narm will die much earlier and you'll do far less damage. For her helmet, the best helmet is the King's Crown, because it offers the chance to buff up another ally's damage by 20%. If you only have one King's Crown, you'll generally want to give this King's Crown to another character in your party. For example, let's say you bring Varna or Chris, so that those characters can buff up your Narm for her attack. Right? In that case, for your helmets, it can be really any helmet then, in that kind of situation, right? Because there's no other real helmet that will allow you to buff up your characters. The absolute best one as a secondary choice would probably be the Najord's Feathered Crown, because it gives a 10% hit point increase, and as long as you're battling against units with less hit points, and by less hit points, this is referring to less hit points in terms of the percentage of health, then your defense and magic defense increases by 15%. So what that means is you have a bit more survivability. After Najord's Feathered Crown would be, Loki's Mask would be fine, Twilight Helmet would be fine, whatever at that point. But ultimately, it's really just King's Crown is top priority. After that, any helmet will do. And finally, for her accessory, Hugin and Munin, surprisingly, are considered a flyer class opponent. Thus, the best accessory for Narm is actually the Slayer's Emblem, because the Slayer's Emblem gives you plus 20% attack increase here from the skill of the accessory. Every other accessory you equip will give far less as a result, right? Most accessories offer an 8% increase. Overlord's Badge would offer a 5% increase. Lone Star Amulet, when it triggers, only offers a 10% increase. But keep in mind that it's incredibly hard to have your Narm attack without characters within 2 range. So that is why the accessory is the Slayer's Emblem. And finally, for Narm's enchant, theoretically, the absolute best enchant for the Ancient Call battle is actually going to be the Rough Sea enchant. Because Rough Sea offers a 10% attack increase as well as a 15% damage reduction. Effectively, what that means is your Narm, if she has Attack Blessing from Tiaris, which is going to give a damage reduction of 50%. If you have Last Rites on your Narm for another 40% damage reduction for 90%, and then you have Rough Sea Enchant for another 15%, you've crossed the 100% damage reduction mark in total. So that will absolutely minimize the amount of damage Narm takes when attacking, making it very easy to keep her at full health. Right. Realistically though, you're not that likely to reroll the enchants on all your gear just for the Ancient's Call fight. Personally speaking, I'm probably going to end up running what you see right now, which is a Breeze enchant on my Narm. Because this already has high enchant values, which is ideal for the battle. It's just that simple. If you can reroll for Rough Sea, by all means, but I would say in that case, you'd probably want to build another set of equipment, with the Rough Sea enchant, rather than rerolling an existing set of gear. So, for me personally, I'm going to have to rely on most likely Landius's Tranquility effect, because Landius's Tranquility will also allow your characters to take 15% less range damage. So with Landius's Tranquility, I can get the 105% damage reduction, which should keep my Narm completely healthy whenever she attacks. So, at this point, that's everything I wanted to say. So I hope you found this video useful. It contains a lot of information. This video is not a breakdown of the way to beat Hugin and Munin, but it does give, I guess, a good sense of how to do it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this information useful. And on that note, Nitro out.